Ambassador Daniel Hayes stood in the grand throne room of Vex Prime, the capital world of the Vexian Empire. The chamber was massive, built to make visitors feel small and powerless. Tall pillars reached toward a ceiling so high it disappeared into darkness. The floor was made of polished black stone that reflected the dim purple lights overhead. Daniel wore his formal diplomatic uniform, a simple dark blue suit with the Earth emblem on his chest. He carried a datapad containing humanity's proposal for peaceful trade and cooperation. Behind him stood two human security officers, both unarmed as required by Vexian protocol. They were allowed to observe, but nothing more. The Vexians were an old species, rulers of 40 star systems. They looked like tall reptiles, with dark green scales and sharp yellow eyes. They walked on two legs and had 4 arms, each ending in clawed hands. Emperor Thexver sat on his throne at the far end of the room, surrounded by dozens of advisors and guards. Daniel had traveled 3 months through space to reach this world. Earth was new to the galactic community, having achieved faster than light travel only 20 years ago. Most alien species who viewed humans as primitive newcomers, barely worth noticing. The Vexian Empire had ignored Earth's requests for diplomatic contact for 5 years. This meeting was Earth's first real chance to establish formal relations with a major galactic power. "Your Majesty," Daniel began, his voice steady and clear, "I bring greetings from Earth and President Helen Carter. Humanity seeks peaceful coexistence with all galactic civilizations. We believe that cooperation benefits everyone." Emperor Thexver said nothing. His yellow eyes stared at Daniel with cold contempt. The advisors around him whispered to each other in their hissing language. Daniel continued, "We propose a trade agreement. Earth has rich mineral deposits and skilled workers. We can offer resources in exchange for technology and knowledge. We also request permission to establish an embassy here on Vex Prime." More whispers filled the room. Some of the Vexian nobles laughed, a sound like air escaping from a broken seal. Daniel kept his expression neutral. He had been trained for this. Diplomacy required patience. "We ask only for respect and fair treatment," Daniel said. "Earth follows all galactic laws. We have no hostile intentions toward any species. We simply want to take our place among the civilized worlds." Emperor Thexver finally spoke. His voice was deep and harsh, translated through Daniel's earpiece. "You dare to demand respect? You, whose species still fights wars on your own world. You, who come from a single planet and lecture an empire that spans 40 systems." Daniel chose his words carefully. "Humanity has a difficult past, Your Majesty, but we have learned from our mistakes. We offer friendship to all who will accept it." The Emperor stood up, his 4 arms spreading wide. "Friendship? Your kind barely understand the language of the galaxy. You have no history, no culture that matters. You are insects asking to sit at the table of giants." Daniel felt his security officers tense behind him, but he remained calm. "We may be young, Your Majesty, but we are not insects. We are a sovereign species deserving of basic dignity." The Emperor walked down the steps from his throne. He moved slowly, his long tail dragging behind him. "Dignity? Let me tell you about dignity, human. Dignity comes from power. Dignity comes from age and wisdom. Your species has none of these things." Daniel stood his ground as the Emperor approached. "Then help us learn, Your Majesty. Share your wisdom. That is what we ask." Emperor Thexver stopped 3 meters away. His advisors had fallen silent. Every eye in the room watched the confrontation. "You ask for too much," the Emperor said. "You demand treaties as if you were equals. You are not equals. You are nothing." Daniel kept his voice level. "We are something, Your Majesty. We are human, and we deserve at least basic courtesy between civilized beings. The Emperor's eyes narrowed. Civilized? You think your species is civilized? He turned to his guards. Show him what happens to those who insult the Empire. Before Daniel could react, 6 guards rushed forward. His security officers tried to intervene, but were immediately overwhelmed. Daniel felt strong, clawed hands grip his arms, forcing him to his knees. The datapad clattered to the floor. Your Majesty, this is a violation of diplomatic protocols, Daniel said, his heart pounding. I am a protected envoy of Earth. You cannot do this. Emperor HFY laughed, a terrible sound that echoed through the throne room. Protocols? I am the law here, human. You come to my world and speak of rights and dignity? I will show the galaxy what happens to species who do not know their place. Daniel struggled, but the guards were too strong. He looked up at the Emperor, refusing to show fear. Earth will not forget this. My government will demand answers. Let them demand, the Emperor said. He gestured to one of his advisors. Activate the galactic broadcast. Let every species see this moment. Cameras mounted on floating drones moved into position around Daniel. He realized with horror that this was being transmitted across the entire galaxy. His face would be seen on thousands of worlds. Please, Daniel said, his voice finally showing strain. There is no need for this. We can find a peaceful solution. The Emperor walked back to his throne and sat down. There is a solution, human. You will serve as an example. Let all species know that the Vexian Empire does not negotiate with primitives. A large guard stepped forward carrying a massive curved blade. The weapon gleamed under the purple lights. Daniel's breath came faster. He thought of his wife and daughter back on Earth. He thought of President Carter, who had trusted him with this mission. I am Ambassador Daniel Hayes of Earth, Daniel said loudly, clearly. Whatever happens here today, know that my people will respond. We are not insects. We are human. Emperor HFY waved his hand dismissively. The guard raised the blade. Daniel closed his eyes, thinking of home in orbit above Vex Prime. Captain Lisa Morgan watched the live transmission from her ship, the Earth vessel Horizon. She stood frozen on the bridge as the blade fell. The transmission showed everything in clear detail. Around her, the crew watched in stunned silence. Daniel Hayes, Ambassador of Earth, died on his knees on an alien world, executed without trial or mercy. His last words echoed in Lisa's mind. We are human. The transmission ended. The throne room disappeared from the screen. Emperor HFY's final message appeared in text across the display. Let this be a lesson to all who would challenge the Empire. Lisa looked at her communications officer. Send everything to Earth Defense Command. Mark it Priority Alpha. Then prepare the ship for immediate departure. Captain, what about the ambassador's body? The officer asked quietly. Lisa's hands clenched into fists. They won't let us have it. Get us out of Vexen space. Now. The Horizon turned away from Vex Prime and jumped to faster than light speed, carrying the news that would change the galaxy forever. The news reached Earth within 6 hours. Quantum communication arrays transmitted Captain Lisa Morgan's report directly to Earth Defense Command headquarters in Geneva. Admiral Richard Cole received the message in his office late at night. He watched the execution footage 3 times before calling an emergency meeting by dawn. Every major government and military leader on Earth had seen the recording. President Helen Carter sat in the Situation Room beneath the White House, her face pale but her eyes hard. Around the table sat the Joint Chiefs of Staff, intelligence directors, and senior advisors. Show it again. President Carter said quietly. The large screen on the wall displayed the final moments of Ambassador Daniel Hayes. The room remained silent as they watched their colleague die. When it ended, Carter stood up. How long until the news goes public? She asked, Maybe 3 hours, replied the Director of Intelligence. The Vexians broadcast this to the entire galaxy. Every news network in known space has the footage. Our own media will have it soon. President Carter nodded. Before that happens, I need options. Admiral Cole, what can we do? Admiral Richard Cole was 60 years old, a career military officer who had commanded Earth's defense forces for 10 years. He was a big man with gray hair and steady blue eyes. He placed a datapad on the table. Madam President, we have been preparing for this scenario since first contact with hostile alien species. We knew eventually someone would test us. I did not expect them to murder our ambassador, Carter said, her voice tight with anger. Neither did we, Cole admitted. But we are ready to respond. The question is, how far you want to take this? General Paul Henderson, head of Earth Ground Forces, leaned forward. He was younger than Cole, only 45, but he had fought in 3 major conflicts on Earth. We have been building our fleet in secret for 15 years. The Vexians think we have 50 warships. We actually have 300. President Carter looked surprised. 300? How is that possible? We've been very careful, Madam President, Cole explained. Most of our construction happens in the asteroid belt, far from alien observation. We also developed weapons systems that the galaxy has never seen. Technologies based on principles they do not understand. Dr. Karen Phillips, the chief science advisor, spoke up. She was a thin woman with short brown hair and sharp green eyes. Our advantages come from Earth's unique environment. We evolved on a death world. High gravity, dangerous weather, extreme temperature variations. This made us tougher than most species. It also made our technology different. Explain, Carter said. Most alien species develop technology in comfortable environments, Karen continued. They built efficient, elegant systems. We built technology to survive. Our weapons are brutal and powerful because that is what we needed on Earth. Our ships can handle stress levels that would destroy Vexian vessels. Our soldiers train in conditions that would kill most aliens. General Henderson added, we have been studying the Vexian military for 10 years. Their fleet is large but outdated. Their tactics rely on intimidation and superior numbers. They have not fought a real war in over a century. We have. President Carter walked to the window. Outside, the sun was rising over Washington. She thought about Daniel Hayes and his family. She thought about what the galaxy would think if Earth did nothing. If we respond with military force, how many casualties can we expect? She asked. Admiral Cole pulled up projections on the screen. If we commit fully, we estimate losing 20 to 30 ships and perhaps 5,000 personnel. Vexian casualties would be significantly higher. How much higher? Cole hesitated. Complete. The Vexian Empire would effectively cease to exist as a military power. The room fell silent. President Carter turned back to face them. You are talking about destroying an entire interstellar empire. They murdered our ambassador on live broadcast, Madam President, General Henderson said firmly. They did it to humiliate us, to show the galaxy that humans do not matter. If we do not respond with overwhelming force, every 2-bit dictator in the galaxy will think they can abuse our people. Dr. Karen Phillips added, there is also the moral question. The Vexian Empire rules 40 systems through fear and oppression. Intelligence reports show they have committed atrocities against dozens of species. Daniel Hayes is not their first victim. He is just the first human victim. President Carter returned to her seat. What would you recommend, Admiral? Admiral Cole straightened. We issue one demand. They surrender Emperor Dexfer to stand trial for murder. We give them 72 hours to comply. When they refuse, and they will refuse, we launch Operation Reckoning. What is Operation Reckoning? Total war, Madam President. We strike every major Vexian military installation simultaneously. We destroy their orbital defenses, their fleet, and their command infrastructure. We capture or eliminate their leadership. We do it fast and we do it completely. President Carter closed her eyes for a moment. And after? What happens to the Vexian people? We help them rebuild, Cole said. We offer humanitarian aid. We protect them from other predatory species. We show the galaxy that humans can be merciful victors. But first, we must show them we can win. The president looked at each person in the room. I need to know you all agree with this course of action. This is not a decision I will make alone. One by one, they nodded. General Henderson spoke for them all. Daniel Hayes was a good man. He had a wife and a daughter. He believed in peaceful diplomacy. But the galaxy needs to learn that our diplomats are protected by the most powerful military in known space. Otherwise, his death means nothing. President Carter stood up. Very well. Begin mobilization. But we do this quietly. I do not want the Vexians to know what is coming. Admiral Cole, I want our best ships positioned in striking range of every major Vexian world. General Henderson, prepare ground forces for planetary assault. Dr. Phillips, make sure all our advanced weapons systems are operational. Understood. Madam President, they replied together. One more thing, Carter added. I will address the public in 2 hours. I will not reveal our plans. I will only say that Earth is considering its response. Let the galaxy wonder what we will do. Let them think we might do nothing. That will make the shock greater when we strike. Admiral Cole smiled grimly. The Vexians are celebrating right now. They think they have won. Let them celebrate, President Carter said coldly. They have 72 hours to enjoy their victory. After that, they will learn what it means to anger humanity. The meeting ended. Military orders went out across Earth and to every human vessel in space. Fleets began moving into position. Soldiers prepared their equipment. Scientists activated weapons that had been built and tested in secret. The news of Daniel Hayes' execution broke across Earth 3 hours later. Cities erupted in protests. People demanded justice. Some called for peace. Others called for war. But the government remained silent. No statements. No press conferences. Just quiet, efficient preparation. In orbit above Earth, the main human fleet assembled. 300 warships, the largest armada humanity had ever built. Each ship was loaded with weapons and supplied for extended combat. Crews ran final drills. Commanders reviewed attack plans. Captain Lisa Morgan reported to the flagship, a massive battleship called the Defiance. Admiral Cole met her in the hangar bay. Captain Morgan, Cole said, you were the last human to see Ambassador Hayes alive. I am putting you in command of the fighter wing that will strike the Imperial Palace. Lisa saluted. Thank you, Admiral. I will not fail him. None of us will, Cole replied. The Vexians think we are weak because we are young. They are about to learn their mistake. 72 hours. That was all the time left before Earth would show the galaxy who humans really were. 72 hours until the Empire learned that killing a human diplomat had consequences. 72 hours until everything changed. On Vex Prime, Emperor Dexver received reports that Earth had gone silent. No protests. No threats. No diplomatic messages. He laughed and told his advisors that the humans were too scared to respond. He ordered celebrations across the Empire. He had successfully intimidated a new species into submission. Thought he had no idea what was coming. The deadline expired at exactly midnight, Earth Standard Time. President Helen Carter had sent one message to Emperor Dexver 72 hours earlier. It was simple and direct. Surrender yourself for trial or face total war. The Emperor had not bothered to reply. He had laughed when his advisors showed him the message. Now, across 40 star systems, human warships emerged from faster-than-light travel. They appeared without warning at every major Vexian military base, every orbital defense platform, every fleet staging area. 300 Earth vessels materialized like ghosts, their weapons already charging. Admiral Richard Cole stood on the bridge of the Defiance, humanity's largest battleship. Around him, holographic displays showed the entire theater of operations. 40 worlds, hundreds of targets, thousands of enemy ships. All units report ready, Admiral, his communications officer said. Cole looked at the tactical display. Every human ship was in position. Every weapon system was online. His crews had trained for this moment for years. Now it was time. Send the message, Cole ordered. Across the galaxy, every Vexian communication system received the same transmission. President Carter's face appeared on screens everywhere. Her voice was calm but firm. People of the Vexian Empire, 72 hours ago, your Emperor murdered Ambassador Daniel Hayes of Earth in cold blood. He did this to intimidate humanity. He did this to show the galaxy that humans do not matter. He was wrong. Earth hereby declares war on the Vexian Empire. We will not stop until Emperor Dexfer faces justice. To the Vexian people, we say this. We do not hate you. We do not wish to harm innocents. But your leaders must answer for their crimes. Stand down and you will not be harmed. Resist and you will be destroyed. The transmission ended. For exactly 10 seconds, nothing happened. Then Admiral Cole gave the order that changed galactic history. All ships, weapons free. Execute Operation Reckoning. The human fleet opened fire at Vex Prime, the Imperial homeworld. Orbital defense platforms detected the incoming attack 2 seconds before the first missile struck. Vexian commanders scrambled to respond, but it was already too late. Earth's weapons were unlike anything they had seen before. Kinetic missiles moving at a fraction of light. Speed slammed into shield generators. The impacts released energy equivalent to small nuclear weapons. Shields that had protected Vex Prime for centuries collapsed in minutes. Plasma lances, superheated beams of contained energy, carved through armor plating like it was paper. Antimatter warheads detonated against military installations, leaving nothing but expanding clouds of debris. Captain Lisa Morgan led her fighter wing toward the orbital defense ring. 200 small human spacecraft, fast and deadly, armed with precision-guided munitions. The Vexian fighters came up to meet them, outnumbering the humans 3-1. Lisa had fought in combat simulations thousands of times. She had studied Vexian tactics until she could predict their movements. Now, as enemy fighters closed in, she felt a cold calm settle over her. This was for Daniel Hayes. This was for Earth. All wings, break and attack, she commanded. The human fighters scattered, moving in patterns that confused the Vexian formations. Earth pilots had trained in high-gravity environments, their reflexes sharpened by years of demanding simulations. They flew their ships like extensions of their own bodies. Lisa locked onto a Vexian fighter and fired. Her missiles were faster than theirs, more agile. The enemy ship tried to evade, but could not escape. It exploded in a brief flash of light. Around her, the battle raged. Human fighters danced through enemy formations, taking down 2 or 3 opponents before taking a hit themselves. All wings push through, Lisa ordered. Clear a path for the bombers. Behind the fighters came the heavy bombers, larger ships carrying bunker-buster weapons. Their target was the Imperial Palace shield generator, buried deep beneath the surface. If they could take it out, ground forces could land. General Paul Henderson watched the battle from the Marine assault ship Hammer. He commanded 15,000 soldiers, the best humanity had to offer. They wore powered armor suits that enhanced their strength and protected them from vacuum. They carried weapons designed to kill efficiently at any range. "General, the fighters have cleared the way," his tactical officer reported. "Bombers approaching target." Henderson watched as the heavy bombers dove toward the planet's surface. Vexian ground defenses fired missiles and energy beams, trying to stop them. Several bombers took hits and exploded, but the rest pressed on. They released their weapons at the last possible moment, then pulled up hard. The bunker buster missiles penetrated deep into the earth before detonating. The explosions were precisely calculated, transferring maximum energy to the underground shield generator. Seismic monitors registered the equivalent of a magnitude 6 earthquake. Then, the palace shields flickered and died. "Shields down, General," the tactical officer confirmed. "You are clear to land." Henderson activated the ship-wide communication system. "All units, this is General Henderson. We are going in. Remember your training. Remember why we are here. Ambassador Hayes died on this world. We will make sure his death is answered. Move out." The assault ships descended through the atmosphere, their hulls glowing red from friction. Vexian ground forces fired everything they had, but human shields absorbed most of the damage. The ships landed hard in the palace courtyard, their ramps dropping before they fully touched down. Henderson was the first one out. His powered armor made him nearly 2.5 meters tall, covered in composite plating. His helmet display showed enemy positions highlighted in red. There were hundreds of them, Vexian royal guards armed with energy rifles. "Contact front," someone shouted. The Vexians opened fire. Energy beams struck human armor, scorching the plating but not penetrating. The Marines returned fire with kinetic rifles, weapons that fired solid projectiles at hypersonic speeds. The difference was immediate and brutal. Vexian armor, designed to stop energy weapons, offered little protection against solid shot moving at several kilometers per second. Henderson led his troops forward, moving from cover to cover. The Vexians fought hard, defending their emperor's palace with desperate courage. But they were fighting soldiers from a death world, humans who had evolved to survive on one of the most hostile planets in the galaxy. Every human in that courtyard could bench press twice their body weight even without armor. With the powered suits, they were nearly unstoppable. The battle for the palace lasted 3 hours. Room by room, corridor by corridor, the Marines pushed forward. Some Vexian guards surrendered. Others fought to the death. Henderson gave orders to accept surrender whenever possible, but not all of his troops listened. They had watched the execution footage. They knew what these people had done to Ambassador Hayes. In orbit, Admiral Cole monitored reports from across the Empire. The attack was proceeding better than expected. Human forces had destroyed or disabled over 60% of the Vexian fleet in the first 6 hours. Orbital defenses around 12 major worlds had been eliminated. Ground forces were landing on military installations across 3 star systems. "Admiral, we are receiving surrender requests from the Vexian fleet at System Gamma 7, the communications officer reported. Cole considered for a moment. "Accept their surrender. Take command of their vessels and disarm them. Any ship that resists, destroy it." "Understood, Admiral." Captain Lisa Morgan's fighter wing had completed its mission. The orbital defenses around Vex Prime were gone. Now she flew in formation, providing cover for the ground assault. Below, she could see the Imperial Palace, smoke rising from dozens of impact sites. She thought about the last time she had been here, watching helplessly as they murdered Daniel. Now she was part of the force that would bring justice. It felt right. It felt necessary. On the surface, General Henderson and his team reached the throne room. The massive doors had been blown open by shaped charges. Inside, Emperor Vexfer sat on his throne, surrounded by his last guards. They were 12 elite warriors, each 2.5 meters tall. Heavily armed and armored, Henderson walked through the doors, his rifle at the ready. Behind him came Commander Stephen Blake, his Special Forces team leader. Blake was smaller than most Marines, but twice as dangerous. He had trained in every form of combat humanity had developed. "Emperor Thexver," Henderson called out. "You are under arrest for the murder of Ambassador Daniel Hayes. Surrender, and you will be treated according to the laws of war. Resist, and we will take you by force." The Emperor stood up. His yellow eyes blazed with hatred. "You dare enter my palace? You dare threaten me in my own throne room?" "This is not your palace anymore," Henderson replied calmly. "This is a crime scene. You are a war criminal. Surrender now." The Emperor hissed something in his own language. The 12 guards raised their weapons. Henderson sighed. He had hoped it would not come to this. The fight was short and brutal. The Vexian guards were skilled warriors, the best the Empire had. But they were facing human soldiers who had spent their entire lives preparing for war. Commander Blake moved like liquid lightning, his combat knife finding gaps in enemy armor. Henderson's team used coordinated fire and movement, tactics refined through centuries of human warfare. 2 minutes later, all 12 guards were down. 3 were dead. 9 were wounded but alive. Emperor Thexver sat in a holding cell aboard the Defiance, Earth's flagship. The cell was small but clean, with basic amenities. Guards stood watch outside, their rifles always ready. The Emperor still wore his royal robes, though they were torn and dirty from the battle. His forearms were bound with human restraints that adjusted to prevent any attempt at escape. 3 days had passed since his capture. 3 days since the Vexian Empire had fallen. 3 days since he had realized his terrible mistake. Admiral Richard Cole entered the cell block. Accompanied by Commander Stephen Blake, the Emperor looked up. His yellow eyes filled with hatred and fear. "Emperor Thexver," Cole said formally, "in 6 hours, you will be transferred to Earth to stand trial for the murder of Ambassador Daniel Hayes. You will face a tribunal of judges and have the right to legal counsel." "I am an emperor," Thexver hissed. "You cannot judge me. I am above your laws." Cole's expression did not change. "You were an emperor. Now you are a prisoner and a war criminal. Your empire is gone. Your fleets are destroyed or surrendered. Your people are under human protection. You have nothing left except the justice we choose to give you." The Emperor slumped against the wall. "My advisors told me humans were weak. They said you were primitives from a single world. They said you would never dare to strike back." "Your advisors were wrong," Blake said coldly. "They made the mistake of judging us by our age instead of our capability. Age does not equal strength, Emperor. We may be young, but we are far from weak." Thexver looked at them both. "What will you do to me?" "That depends on the trial," Cole replied. "But I can tell you this. Ambassador Hayes asked for mercy before you killed him. You gave him none. Perhaps you should think about that in the days ahead." They left the Emperor alone in his cell. Outside, Cole turned to Blake. "How are the occupation forces handling things?" "Better than expected," Blake reported. "Most Vexian worlds have accepted the transition. We have had only minor resistance. The civilian population seems almost relieved that the Empire is gone." Apparently, Thexver was not a popular ruler. What about the other species in the Empire? Many of them are celebrating. The Vexians conquered or intimidated dozens of smaller species over the centuries. Those species are grateful that someone finally stopped them. Cole nodded. "Good. Make sure our troops treat everyone fairly. We did not come here to be conquerors. We came for justice." 6 hours later, a special transport ship left the Defiance carrying Emperor Dexver to Earth. The journey took 4 days through faster than light travel. During that time, news of the trial spread across the galaxy. Every major civilization sent observers to witness the proceedings. The trial was held in Geneva, at the International Court Building. The courtroom was large enough to accommodate representatives from 40 different species. President Helen Carter attended, sitting in the front row next to Admiral Cole and General Henderson. 3 judges presided over the trial. They were experienced human jurists, chosen for their fairness and knowledge of both human and galactic law. Captain Lisa Morgan sat in the witness section, ready to provide testimony about what she had seen. Emperor Dexver was brought in wearing simple gray clothing. The restraints had been removed, though armed guards stood nearby. He looked smaller somehow, diminished without his throne and his empire. A lawyer sat beside him, a human woman named Patricia Graham who had agreed to defend him despite public anger. The lead judge, an older man named William Foster, called the court to order. This tribunal has been convened to try the defendant, former Emperor Dexver of the Vexian Empire, on charges of murder, crimes against sentient beings, and violations of diplomatic law. How does the defendant plead? Patricia Graham stood. Not guilty, Your Honor. The defendant claims sovereign immunity and argues that his actions were within his authority as ruler of his people. This court does not recognize sovereign immunity for murder. Judge Foster replied, "The trial will proceed. Prosecution, present your case." The prosecutor was a tall woman named Catherine Reeves, a former military lawyer with 20 years of experience. She approached the bench and activated a holographic display. Your Honors, the evidence is clear and overwhelming. On the 12th of October, Earth's Standard Calendar, Ambassador Daniel Hayes traveled to Vex Prime as an official diplomatic envoy. He came in peace, seeking to establish formal relations between Earth and the Vexian Empire. Instead of receiving him with the courtesy due to a diplomat, Emperor Dexver ordered his execution. The holographic display showed the footage of Daniel's death. The courtroom fell silent as they watched. When it ended, Catherine continued. The defendant did not offer Ambassador Hayes a trial. He did not present charges. He simply ordered death as punishment for what he called disrespect. This is murder, Your Honors. Clear, deliberate, and cruel. Patricia Graham stood to object. Your Honors, while my client's actions may seem harsh by human standards, they were consistent with Vexian law and custom. In the Vexian culture, an emperor has absolute authority. Ambassador Hayes was warned that demanding respect from the emperor would be considered an insult. Was Ambassador Hayes informed of this custom before his meeting? Judge Foster asked. Graham hesitated. The diplomatic protocols were provided to Earth's government. That is not what I asked. Was Ambassador Hayes personally informed that requesting respect would be considered a capital offense? No, Your Honor. Captain Lisa Morgan was called to testify. She walked to the witness stand, her uniform crisp and formal. She placed her hand on the oath device and swore to tell the truth. Captain Morgan, you were present in orbit during Ambassador Hayes' execution. Tell us what you observed. Lisa spoke clearly, though her voice held barely contained anger. I watched the transmission in real time. Ambassador Hayes was professional and courteous throughout. He never raised his voice. He never threatened anyone. He simply asked for basic respect between sovereign peoples. The Emperor killed him for that. Did you see any indication that Ambassador Hayes was warned his life was in danger? No. He had no idea what was coming. Neither did we. The defense lawyer tried to establish that Daniel had been provocative, that he had insulted the Emperor. But Lisa shut down every attempt. Ambassador Hayes was the most diplomatic person I ever knew. He believed in peaceful solutions. He believed in finding common ground. The only thing he was guilty of was trusting that a galactic leader would honor basic diplomatic customs. The trial lasted 3 days. Witness after witness testified. Experts on galactic law explained that diplomatic immunity was a universal principle recognized by all civilized species. Even Vexian citizens came forward, speaking anonymously about the Emperor's cruelty and his history of violence. On the final day, Emperor Vexver took the stand in his own defense. He was questioned by both lawyers and the judges. Under oath, he admitted ordering Daniel's execution, but he claimed it was necessary to maintain his authority. Ambassador Hayes challenged me in front of my entire court, Dexver said. If I had shown weakness, it would have encouraged rebellion. I had to demonstrate strength. So you murdered an unarmed diplomat to show strength? Judge Foster asked. I did what any ruler would do to protect his power. Did you consider that his death might provoke war? Dexver's expression became bitter. I did not think humans were capable of the response you showed. I was wrong. But that does not change the fact that I acted within my authority as emperor. Judge Foster leaned forward. Let me be very clear, former emperor. You may have had authority over your own people, but Ambassador Hayes was not your subject. He was protected by centuries of galactic law. You had no authority to harm him, let alone kill him. The judges deliberated for 6 hours. When they returned, the courtroom was packed with observers from across the galaxy. President Carter sat motionless, waiting for the verdict. Judge Foster spoke. In the matter of Earth versus Dexver, this tribunal finds the defendant guilty of murder in the first degree, guilty of crimes against sentient beings, and guilty of violating diplomatic law. The defendant showed no remorse for his actions and demonstrated a callous disregard for life and law. Emperor Dexver stood, his body rigid. He knew what was coming. This court recognizes that the defendant's actions were not simply criminal, but were an attack on the fundamental principles of civilization. However, this court also recognizes that responding with equal brutality would diminish our own civilization. Judge Foster paused, looking directly at the emperor. Therefore, this court sentences you to life imprisonment without possibility of parole. You will spend the rest of your natural life in a secure facility, isolated from your people and your former empire. You wanted to send a message with Ambassador Hayes' death. Now we send a message with your life. Civilization requires mercy, even for those who show none themselves. 3 months after the fall of the Vexian Empire, Ambassador Karen Wells stood before the Galactic Council. The council chamber was enormous, a circular room with seats for representatives from over 200 species. Holographic displays floated in the air, translating her words into dozens of languages simultaneously. Karen was 42 years old, a career diplomat who had spent 20 years working in international relations on Earth. She had brown hair pulled back in a professional style and wore a dark blue suit with the Earth emblem on her shoulder. She carried herself with quiet confidence. Knowing that every eye in the room was on her dot, the Galactic Council had called this emergency session to discuss humanity's actions against the Vexian Empire. Many species were angry. They claimed Earth had overreacted. They said the war was excessive and cruel. Others defended humanity's response. The debate had been raging for weeks. The council chairman, a tall alien with silver skin and 4 eyes, called for order. His species, the Zanari, had been mediating galactic disputes for over 1,000 years. He spoke in a deep, resonant voice. Ambassador Wells, you have heard the accusations. Several council members claimed that Earth's military response to the death of Ambassador Hayes was disproportionate. They say you destroyed an empire over the death of one individual. How do you respond? Karen stepped forward to the central podium. She had prepared for this moment carefully. She knew that what she said here would shape humanity's relationship with the galaxy for decades to come. Honored Chairman, respected members of the Council, I will not deny the facts. Earth did respond with overwhelming military force. We did destroy the Vexian military. We did capture their emperor and put him on trial. But let me explain why these actions were necessary and just. She activated a holographic display showing Ambassador Daniel Hayes. The image showed him smiling, standing with his wife and young daughter. This is Daniel Hayes. He was not just a diplomat. He was a husband and a father. He was a man who believed deeply in peaceful coexistence between species. He volunteered for the mission to Vex Prime, despite the risks. He went there with hope and good intentions. The display changed to show the execution footage. Karen let it play for 10 seconds before stopping it. This is how Emperor Vexfer responded to those good intentions. He murdered a protected diplomat on live broadcast. He did it deliberately. He did it to humiliate humanity and show the galaxy that we did not matter. A representative from the Krell species, a large amphibian creature, spoke up. But surely the appropriate response was diplomatic protest, not military annihilation. You could have taken the matter to this council. Karen turned to face the Krell representative directly. And what would this council have done? Would you have arrested the Emperor? Would you have forced the Vexian Empire to hand him over for trial? Or would you have issued a statement condemning the action and then done nothing? The chamber fell silent. Karen continued. Let me tell you what we learned about the Vexian Empire after we occupied their worlds. We found records of dozens of similar incidents. Diplomats from smaller species murdered or imprisoned without cause. Entire populations enslaved. Peaceful worlds conquered simply because they possessed resources the Empire wanted. She pulled up document after document, all recovered from Vexian government archives. The Empire committed atrocities for 500 years. And this council did nothing. You knew what they were doing. You had evidence. But the Empire was powerful, so you looked away. The Zanari chairman shifted uncomfortably. Karen pressed her advantage. When we liberated Vexian worlds, do you know what happened? The conquered species celebrated. They thanked us. Species that had been oppressed for generations were finally free. We did not just avenge Ambassador Hayes. We freed millions of sentient beings from tyranny. A representative from the Telosi, a bird-like species, stood up. But you did it through violence. You killed thousands of Vexian soldiers. You destroyed their infrastructure. How is this justice? Karen's expression hardened. We gave them a choice. We demanded they surrender the Emperor for trial. We gave them 72 hours to comply. They refused. They chose war. And yes, when that war came, we fought to win. We fought with the full strength of our military, because anything less would have cost more lives on both sides. She paused, looking around the chamber. Let me ask you all a question. How many of your species have diplomats working across the galaxy right now? How many of you send your people to negotiate treaties, establish embassies, and represent your interests on foreign worlds? Dozens of representatives nodded or made gestures of affirmation. And what message would it have sent if we had done nothing when one of our diplomats was murdered? What would it mean for your diplomats? If humanity had simply filed a protest and moved on, every dictator in the galaxy would know that killing a diplomat has no real consequences. Your people would be in danger. All of our people would be in danger. Ambassador Wells pulled up the final piece of evidence. It was a recording of Emperor Vexvar's broadcast immediately after Daniel's execution. They all heard his words. Let this be a lesson to all who would challenge the Empire. The Emperor thought he was teaching us a lesson, Karen said quietly. Instead, humanity taught the galaxy a different lesson. We taught you that diplomatic immunity is not just a custom. It is a sacred principle. We taught you that harming a protected envoy will bring swift and certain justice. We taught you that civilization has meaning, and that meaning must be defended. A representative from the Vorten Confederation, a species known for their peaceful nature, spoke. But what about mercy, Ambassador? What about forgiveness? Your people showed no restraint. Karen turned to face the Vorten representative. We showed exactly the right amount of restraint. We could have executed Emperor Dexfer the same way he killed Ambassador Hayes. We could have destroyed Vex Prime and every major Vexian city. We could have treated their civilians the way they treated conquered populations. But we did not. She pulled up footage of human forces providing humanitarian aid to Vexian refugees, rebuilding destroyed infrastructure, and establishing fair governments on liberated worlds. We gave the Emperor a fair trial. We provided him with legal counsel. We followed the law even though he had shown our diplomat no such courtesy. And we sentenced him to life in prison, not death. We showed mercy where he showed none. We demonstrated that human civilization is built on justice, not revenge. The Galactic Council deliberated for 2 hours. Representatives argued among themselves. Some called for sanctions against Earth. Others defended humanity's actions. Finally, the Zenari chairman called for a vote. The question before this council is whether Earth violated galactic law in its military response to the Vexian Empire. All those in favor of condemning Earth's actions, please indicate. 47 species voted to condemn Earth. All those opposed to condemning Earth's actions, please indicate. 153 species voted against condemnation. The chairman announced the results. The motion to condemn Earth has failed. This council recognizes that while humanity's response was severe, it was within their rights as a sovereign species responding to an act of war against their diplomatic corps. Karen allowed herself a small smile of relief. But the chairman was not finished. However, this council also wishes to establish new protocols regarding the protection of diplomatic personnel. We propose the creation of the Diplomatic Protection Treaty, which will guarantee the safety of all accredited diplomats and establish clear consequences for violations. Ambassador Wells, would Earth be willing to help draft this treaty? We would be honored, Chairman, Karen replied. After the session ended, Karen walked through the council building's gardens. She found President Helen Carter waiting for her on a bench overlooking a fountain. Admiral Richard Cole stood nearby, speaking quietly with General Paul Henderson. You did well in there, President Carter said as Karen sat down beside her. Thank you, Madam President. Though I am not sure we convinced everyone. We do not need to convince everyone, Carter replied. We just need them to understand that humanity cannot and will not be pushed around. That message was delivered clearly enough. Admiral Cole joined them. We are receiving reports from across the former Vexian territory. The transition to local governments is proceeding smoothly. Most worlds are grateful for our help. What about the Vexian homeworld? Karen asked. Vex Prime has established an interim government, General Henderson reported. They are cooperating fully. Many of them are relieved that the Empire is gone. Dexver was not kind to his own people either. President Carter stood up. I am establishing the Daniel Hayes Memorial Foundation. It will be dedicated to training diplomats and protecting them across the galaxy. I want his death to mean something. It already does, Karen said softly. Every species in the galaxy now knows that diplomats are protected. That is his legacy. 6 months after the trial, Captain Lisa Morgan visited the memorial that had been erected for Ambassador Daniel Hayes on Earth. It stood in Geneva, near the building where his killer had been tried and convicted. The memorial was simple, a statue of Daniel in his diplomatic uniform, looking upward toward the stars with an inscription at the base. Lisa read the inscription aloud.